The next Mass Effect game is in development. A lot of things are undetermined, like release date, development status, or even the freaking title of the thing. Other than those things, minorly important things, the content of the game is undisclosed as well. Such as, who will be the enemy? What will the conflict be about? Will Shepard return? What about the space hamster? And what about important stuff from the previous games, such as Cerberus? This leaves us with a situation ripe for theory crafting, which is what this video will be about. If you want to go straight to the Cerberus theories, feel free to skip ahead to this timestamp, since the first part of this video is me shortly rambling about the nature and practice of theory crafting. Before all that though, thank you for clicking. On theory crafting, it's easy to speculate and form baseless conclusions or wish lists. There's nothing wrong with that, but if we want to try to describe accurately or even predict what to expect from the next game, we should base our predictions on sources that are likely to control the moves of the developers of the game. What are these sources? These controlling sources, if you will. This is largely to be a more normative than descriptive question from my side here, meaning that this is largely a question of what sources I want to control the developers, not what sources I necessarily believe actually controls their decision making. This all rests on what principle the developers obey when it comes to making games. For instance, the rule of cool or letting money control their decisions, etc. I believe the controlling sources for the developers should be the established and existing canon story elements in the main games. This should be the lex superior principle, or the guiding star, if you will. If you are writing a sequel to a story and you can help it, please, for the love of all that's good, do not write something that retcons the previous story in any noteworthy way. I'm no Star Wars lore expert, but apparently an example of this is the hyperspace jump scene in The Last Jedi, or the return of Palpatine in the same sequel series. I don't think it's a controversial opinion that stuff that has been told and shown have to be consistent with the stuff that is implemented later, especially in a game series like Mass Effect that places so much importance on the player-made decisions and their consequences, even across different games. This isn't Family Guy where you just cut away all the time.
I'm Pooh.
Another source of knowledge that we can treat as a controlling source for the development of the next game is the official marketing. This source shouldn't be taken too seriously though, that should be taken with a grain of salt as it were, since as most people should be aware of by now, that when marketing a product, the sellers are known to hyperbolize and exaggerate, over-communicate, under-communicate, even lie to its buyers in order to sell the product. On the assumption that BioWare and EA is a group of highly ethical and morally upstanding actors, we can assume that the marketing is largely coherent with the final product. But we need to have in mind that marketing can be inaccurate. A lot of people like to refer to Halo 5 Guardians as a case of misleading game marketing, for example. Where is the Master Chief cape? Shaking my head. They just keep on removing Master Chief's clothing. By looking at these two types of controlling sources, being 1. Established lore, and 2. Marketing material, assuming that BioWare and EA are wise and ethically upstanding.
Like legit, this guy was just walking along the side of the road and saw his friend's lifeless body on the ground and thought, man, I get a free car.
We can make our most educated and safe guesses on the content of the final product. There's a big assumption, I know, but we like to live in a perfect make-believe world here on this channel. So in this video, I will look at arguments based on the official teasers for the next game, as well as the most important story elements from Mass Effect 1, 2, 3, and Andromeda. And the questions that we will try to answer are, will Cerberus return, and what role will they likely play? As for the return of Cerberus, we should look at their history and their organization. What means, motivations, and opportunity does Cerberus have to return? As for their means, by the end of Mass Effect 3, they seem heavily devastated at the end. Cerberus is an organization that grew amazingly fast from its starting point and to the point they're at in Mass Effect 3. Like Joker pointed out, they started essentially as a small Alliance Black Operations group gone rogue. By Mass Effect 3 they were capable of waging a fairly decent war on the galactic community, obviously exploiting the chaos caused by the much stronger Reaper and Geth forces, as to avoid too many direct confrontations with the galactic militaries. My impression, supported by the successful strike on the Cerberus base towards the end of Mass Effect 3, is that Cerberus wasn't really big enough to hold off a direct fight with the Council races or even the Alliance, though Cerberus' combat technology was apparently vastly superior. This tells us that the greatest strength of Cerberus is secrecy and tactics, and technological advantages. Citadel coup, like a lot of Cerberus operations in Mass Effect 3, was a desperate tactical insertion that also ended in failure. When they came into the light, the Alliance seemingly wiped the floor with them. After all these crimes, like the one on Horizon, no traditional propaganda in the world is likely to be good enough to restore Cerberus' good image and name. Stuff they relied heavily on in order to recruit sympathizers in high and low places of humanity. By the end of Mass Effect 3, Cerberus seems to have been completely militarily decimated in comparison to their strength towards the start of the game. You could argue that they have other fleets across the galaxy, and I obviously can't refute that. We saw how big a fleet they had at Omega, for instance, but it's very likely that the Alliance and the other Council races mercilessly hunt down any remaining professional Cerberus military units across the galaxy as soon as the Reapers were defeated. I think it's safe to say that Cerberus is a weakened, if not eradicated, organization as far as military capacity goes by the end of Mass Effect 3. In combination with the death of their mastermind leader, the Elusive Man, it's safe to say their means to be bad guys are reduced heavily after Mass Effect 3. Then again, they have done bad things with lesser means, like in Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 with the Thorian research, mind control experiment in Andromeda, Jack's lab on Pragia, and furthermore, if the next game is set centuries into the far future like the teaser suggests, what's to stop the notoriously clever Cerberus organization from rebuilding their strength across centuries? They could, fairly, be at the same strength as in the start of Mass Effect 3, if they play their cards right. The OG Cerberus reached that power level in less than 1 century in the original games, so even though of course some people have called that evolution contrived, but fine. I agree with that, but we'll add that Cerberus' power level growth into Mass Effect 3 wasn't that big that I found it to be outside of the realm of the believable. But especially given a time jump on centuries, for instance. But even without it, honestly, I think Cerberus does have enough means to pose as a bad guy or to return in the next game at least. But would they have any motive or motivations to return? What with their leader and organization killed and decimated into dust and all that? I'm sure galactic lamestream media is working overtime to label Cerberus as even worse things than terrorists, much like how real-life media treats the funny mustache man and types like that. The Elusive Man famously said that Cerberus is an idea, and that idea is not easily destroyed. Now, I know he apparently published a manifesto detailing the Cerberus philosophy and the so-called Cerberus idea, according to the Mass Effect Codex, but I haven't found or read this manifesto, to be honest. I'm just saying that when he says that Cerberus is an idea, I would really like to know what that idea exactly is. If the idea simply is human survivalism, then yes, I agree that idea isn't so easily destroyed, as it's simply just a basic concept. Humans, like all known life forms, want to survive, so I guess I agree with the Elusive Man here, you can say. But if the Cerberus idea is human supremacism or something akin to space fascism or something more sophisticated, then okay, I guess I also agree that real life keeps showing us how autocratic ideas, forces and philosophies are seemingly impossible to eradicate, so I guess he's right that the Cerberus idea can't be eradicated. But the Cerberus motive to control the Reapers, assuming that the destroy ending is forced canon of course, will be gone. Since the Reapers will be gone, then there will be no Cerberus motive to control them. There's nothing to control. However, the motive for human dominance in the galaxy and beyond, to the detriment of the other species, that would, I guess, still be able to motivate them and could hint towards their return and maybe even as a role as bad guys in the next game. As for Cerberus' opportunity to become bad guys, well, their opportunities to return to the galactic stage would likely be heavily hampered by bad press resulting from their multiple military failures like Omega, the Citadel coup, as well as their more secretive evil operations being exposed like Horizon Chocolate Factory attacks on human colonies like Eden Prime and Bennington, among many other. Their soldier indoctrination program, an active hindrance of Alliance and Council efforts against the Reapers regarding various military operations as well, and hindering the Crucible program, all that is stuff, bad press. They give them horrible reputation and ample anti-Cerberus sentiment that the Council and Alliance can easily use to hinder Cerberus recruitment and growth, even among their core voters, the humans themselves, so to speak. The opportunity for Cerberus to return in any meaningful way is slim. But given a time jump of a few centuries, anything should, all things considered, be possible. So you claim to be a pro-human organization. Now why did you kill all those humans?
Good question.
What about the marketing material, meaning the teasers? mainly. The teasers are talking about human defiance, and that the Council is furious.
Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate human defiance.
If I were to say who are the most defiant humans in the Mass Effect universe, most of you are likely to think of Cerberus or Shepard. Cerberus and Shepard of course worked together at one point, so that's actually a funny point to be aware of. This sentence though in the teaser could mean that Cerberus will play a role, because in the teaser they're talking about the Council underestimating human defiance. This doesn't have to mean that human defiance is a bad thing. Shepard, as we all know, saved the galaxy several times. Shepard's human defiance arguably helped Shepard to succeed against all odds, even when things seemed impossible. This could point to a story in Mass Effect 4 where humans once again will be an important part in defeating the big evil bad guys. However, it could naturally reference the darker side of defiance as well, such as the Cerberus anti-Council efforts, particularly in Mass Effect 3. The official teaser of 11th December of 2020 shows no clear or even unclear reference to Cerberus, either theme-wise or in terms of physical evidence, in my opinion. This hints towards Cerberus not being very central to the sequel. This teaser is old though, and likely from an early stage of development, before the story is finalized. So things could have changed during development, we just don't know yet. The N7-Day teaser of 2022 that dropped 2 years later and that was analyzed up and down, revealing eventually the hidden dialogue I just opened with in this segment, has much more references that can be tied to Cerberus, both in terms of themes and physical evidence shown in the footage. There is a reference to the Cerberus color scheme, a seemingly man-made mass relay hinted to by the consort's mass relay shape and non-Reaper architecture, paint job MR suggesting the name Mass Relay, and the hidden Liara dialogue talking about human defiance. Again, which human organization has been more defiant of Council politics than Cerberus? They literally attacked their place of employment. Cerberus is also well known for having access to and experimenting with highly advanced technology, be that Collector, Reaper, or Geth tech. Speaking about Geth tech, a Geth unit is seemingly involved in this hidden dialogue with Liara in the teaser. Cerberus' previous Geth ties could further suggest that Cerberus is involved, though I wouldn't put too much faith in such an argument since the Geth are related and previously involved with practically every single species and faction in the Milky Way at this point. In my opinion though, the N7-Day 2022 teaser had a bunch of almost on-the-nose referencing to Cerberus, which would be very misleading marketing if they don't play some sort of role of importance in the next game. But, you know, we have to take marketing with a grain of salt, only the final product will be decisive. The N7-Day teaser of 2023 followed in the footsteps of the 2020 teaser, you could say, however, with no clear or even unclear reference to Cerberus, in my opinion. You could say this is an intentional correction of the 2022 teaser, with the writers being worried that we started to suspect Cerberus involvement due to the references in the 2022 teaser, and that they now have wanted to signalize that they have shifted focus away from Cerberus. Or perhaps the writers saw some negative reactions to bringing back Cerberus and that they now wanted to signalize that they have indeed abandoned the idea of using Cerberus for the next game. But it's hard to draw reliable conclusions from that kind of obscured subliminal messaging. I think it's safer to conclude that the 2023 N7-Day teaser wasn't meant to either prove or disprove Cerberus's involvement in Mass Effect 4. We do, however, also have some lore from the newest and much beloved Mass Effect game, Mass Effect Andromeda, that could hint to the relevance of Cerberus in the next game. At least a few Cerberus-tied persons infiltrated the Andromeda Initiative, as shown in an Andromeda side quest involving unethical experiments, of course. These Cerberus people, since the arcs left before Mass Effect 3, would basically be some sort of older generation of Cerberus than those who have participated and experienced the Reaper War, Citadel coup, Attack on Omega, Horizon, etc. They are basically a time capsule in flesh form. Wow, really sounds like Sovereign wrote that line, but you get it, they are from a different generation, meaning that they don't necessarily represent the next generation of Cerberus activities, the good and the bad. If anything, their appearance in Andromeda felt much more like a cameo without story significance, or felt kinda like those classic Cerberus shenanigans in Mass Effect 1, with them being a small, insignificant creep doing shady stuff in the dark corners of space. But that quest isn't all that Andromeda contributed to Cerberus theory crafting. And this leads me to why I made this video. One of the commenters on one of my earlier videos pointed out that Cerberus is a three-headed guard dog in the original real-life mythology. Cerberus, the organization in Mass Effect, view themselves as the guard dog and protector of humanity against the aliens and evil forces of space. But let's focus on the three-head part. A head is the intelligence, the controller, the master of any given, at least normal, body. This commenter suggests that, what if the Elusive Man was simply one of the heads on the body of Cerberus, and that the other head is the benefactor from the Andromeda initiative, as well as a hidden third head that would be exposed in the next Mass Effect game? It's something to think about. We all know that Cerberus likes to work in cells that have essentially no idea what the other cell is doing, with only leaders like the Elusive Man having insight in multiple projects at once. So I'd say it's not that far-fetched. My impression is primarily that the Elusive Man at least was the man with the most power in Cerberus, and power to override all other leader decisions, even if he, according to this theory, would have shared control with up to 2 other heads. As for the claim that the benefactor of Andromeda is even a part of Cerberus, we don't yet know. Though the benefactor's MO mirrors the MO of known Cerberus operatives and the Elusive Man himself. It mirrors the Elusive Man so much, in fact, that you could even reasonably argue that the benefactor in Andromeda is, or I guess you could say, was the Elusive Man. That would likely require its own separate video investigating that. For this video though, it suffices to say that it's a possibility that the Elusive Man either wasn't working and leading Cerberus alone, as well as a possibility of him being the benefactor of Andromeda. In the latter case, of course, that would mean that the benefactor, like the Elusive Man, is dead. Lol. In my opinion, you can't really conclude from the Andromeda cameos either that Cerberus will be relevant in the next game. All in all, there is lore and marketing friendly reasons for BioWare to bring Cerberus back, and in a big way. So to summarize, Cerberus, until other things are proven in a sequel or official statement from BioWare, has reasonable means, motive and opportunity to come back on the galactic stage. Teasers and Mass Effect Andromeda cameos leave room for such a comeback as well. This leads into another, much more important question, however, and that is whether or not Cerberus should return. That could also probably be its own video, and I won't harp on this too much, and for one reason only. If the return is handled well, and it contributes something good to the story, go for it, in my opinion. I do, however, want to make my stance clear, that giving Cerberus too much space as the main antagonist or a lot of screen time as antagonists, again, is very risky, and I'm skeptical of that move, especially if this game is to be a fresh start and good entry point for new players who don't even know what Cerberus have done or who they are. My skepticism largely stems from the fact that we have been exposed to Cerberus for a long time now, and we know a lot about them, even though, yes, they are a secretive organization and there's logically a whole lot we still don't know about them. I still say, let this three-headed dog rest. Let that secretive aura remain by not exploring them too much. That way we would still have some mystery while we're replaying the OG trilogy, and you could get the chance to come up with a new original villain instead for this next game, with his own mysteries, therefore adding to that Mass Effect universe instead of trotting up the same old ground. We don't want Cerberus to die over-serialized. We've all seen how that can go. Again, if they pull it off, go for it, but I am skeptical. Thanks for watching until the end though. Please let me know in the comments if you feel you have something to add or want to share, and we can perhaps craft some theories, modify the theories in this video, and such, stuff like that. Someday the game will be out, and it might be fun to look back at what we thought the game would be, and laugh at how wrong we were, or possibly cry at how accurate we were. Other than that, this is Dr. Epic signing off. Hope you enjoyed that dose of Medigel. Remember, overkill that sub button, overload that like button, adrenaline rush that share button, and commit Batarian genocide in the comment section down below.
What do you want?
What I've always wanted.
Unload on it!